Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of the Star Wars Year by Podcast, but it's episode 1914 by how we're rating these episodes, because it's what year the coverage begins. This is a special Patreon bonus show for both the Steele Wars Podcast and our co-host Hawes Burkhardt's amazing podcast, Blue Harvest. Hawes, welcome to the show.
How's it going, buddy?
It's going real good. We did put up on our Patreon a sizzle app, letting people know what this is going to be all about. It was marred by technical difficulties. Have you calmed down?
I have. I feel like after a full week of getting my stuff together, I feel much better.
Dude, that full week has taken 15 years off your face. You're looking great. Which brings me to this point, great segue, that you can watch it on video as well. So in the show notes, if you're listening to this in podcast form, there'll be a link to the YouTube channel where you can watch us talk about the book and the history of Star Wars. The book I refer to is Star Wars Year by Year by Ryder Wyndham, Daniel Wallace, and Pablo Hidalgo. And the book chronicles Star Wars' history and things that were going on year by year, along with the pop and political cultures at the time. And it's an amazing book, Hawes.
It's jam-packed with information. Podcast or not, this would be something I'd be really into checking out. It's really cool.
Yeah, I've tried to shy away from looking in it too much because, I don't want to, get all amped up for 97.
When it's going to be a whiles away.
Yeah, so I think we're going to do these maybe once a month or once or twice a month or something. We'll just see how long it takes to produce, because the video, if you're watching on podcast, or you're listening on podcast and you want to watch the video will feature some visual references to what we are talking about. So this is going to be just a beautiful multimedia excursion, Hawes.
Hey, and we see how well I adapted to new forms of media last week. Hopefully it's a little better this time.
Dude, you are on it. You are on it. So we should give props to our amazing cover art, Hawes.
Yes, that is by a good buddy of mine, Evan DeCellis. He has done all of the Blue Harvest artwork anybody might have seen, from T-shirts to cover art, and he really knocked out the Patreon cover art.
He got my spirit, my essence, I feel like. That is good. I do like, I thank you so much, Evan, and I was amused when I saw him tweet the other day, "Thank you for letting us do the album art." And it's like, I love Star Wars podcasting where someone can do you an amazing favor.
And thank you.
Yeah.
Somehow. Yeah.
It's like, it's quite a trick. That is quite a trick.
Here's a small bit of sizzle. I think Evan and I might be doing an occasional show about Star Wars artwork on the Patreon.
Really? Oh my
Yeah.
God. Hawes, you got to chill out, man. We're trying to get through the first episode, and you're sizzling other stuff.
I learned from the best.
Oh my God, patience, young Padawan, patience. All right, so let's get into the book. I actually should just hold it up for everyone to see, because if you're watching on video, this thing is thick.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that.
And just so the listeners or viewers know, this is the expanded and revised edition. There's two editions, so this is the newest one.
Hawes, fake fan, it's the updated and expanded edition.
Yeah, well, you caught me.
Yeah, well, if you didn't have, your head all caught up in trying to sizzle some other show and you were taking notice of what we were actually doing, then perhaps we can get somewhere. But let's start at 1914. This is Life Before Star Wars, Hawes. What page are we on? Page 12. I wonder if people are going to have the book out. And
yeah, should we do like the old Star Wars read-alongs where we're like, at the tone, turn the page.
Have a little R2-D2 noise or
yeah.
something? Yeah. Very exciting. Very exciting. So, inspiration and influences. The chapter begins, growing up in the 1940s and 50s, George Lucas's literary taste tends towards Jules Verne's novel 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and the Flash Gordon comic strip, and comic books ranging from Tommy Tomorrow to Donald Duck. He also enjoys the Flash Gordon movie serials, and even though he recognizes their technical limitations, Walt Disney's films and the Warner Brothers cartoons also have their appeal. These boyhood passions will both inspire and influence Lucas's later work.
Well, okay, so when was the D23? I don't think it was the last one, maybe the one before, so maybe 2015 when they gave George Lucas their special icon award or something.
Yeah, that was 2015. I believe that was the Force Awakens year that they gave him the award.
Right. And in that his acceptance speech, he basically said like, well, Jar Jar is basically Goofy.
Ah.
Oh, dude, have you ever gotten a good look at what Jar Jar's feet look like?
I had the action figure.
I did too, but we were watching The Phantom Menace the other day, and there's a scene where Jar Jar's asleep on Padme's ship, and he's got his feet propped up on a table, and you get a really good look at them. They're gross. I never noticed before.
Dude, every male's feet are gross. It's like,
fair enough.
Yeah, don't just out Jar Jar's feet. Like, I'm not putting my feet up to the camera to go, this is what they should be like.
This isn't that kind of show.
No. Oh, wow. So, obviously, one of the big influences for George Lucas was that Flash Gordon serial. And I'm loving this photo of Flash Gordon, and I believe is it Dale Arden? Was Dale Arden the sort of the Princess Leia? Is that her name?
I believe so. The whole Flash Gordon Buck Rogers thing is one of those things that I've known, for a long time that has heavily influenced Star Wars, but it's also one of those things that I haven't consumed a whole lot of.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have the dedication to film history to go back and watch like a black and white ship on a string. But I remember seeing it, and much like George Lucas, I enjoyed it despite their technical limitations at the time. But I love what spacesuits were in, this is 1936. It's just...
a pair of Puma pants.
It just looks like a musical performance of Robin Hood or something. It's there's a lot of, I guess he's looking a bit Nabooian.
Honestly, he does. And that gun, if you look at his gun, like clearly George Lucas stepped up the game as far as weapon design goes, because that thing looks pretty goofy. But I can see a little Naboo in that gun too, to be honest.
The gun is like Flash Gordon is a 3 3/4 inch figure, and he's been given a Black Series 6-inch scale weapon. It's just too big.
Honestly, if you kind of squint and look at it, it kind of almost looks like a bad version of Boba Fett's blaster rifle.
Ah, yeah, I get where you're coming from. Or if Boba Fett's rifle had like a big silencer on the top, or maybe by the looks of that, they would make it louder. It looks like a bit of a boombox type scenario. But have you ever seen the Flash Gordon movie, like the one that was sort of like the reaction to Star Wars? That had,
the one that the Queen soundtrack.
Yeah. I was going to say it's my. It's like. The visuals aren't that good, but with that music, that flash, it was, yeah. But I remember watching that stuff in the 80s and just sort of like looking at the TV and just like, be more Star Wars-ish.
Oh, do you remember, I think this movie was also a reaction to Star Wars, Krull?
Krull,
Krull the Conqueror. That seems like a big reaction to Star Wars to me, too.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen that one, but it was a mainstay in the 80s video shop.
It was. They would have like the nasty broken up cover sitting on the shelf, like because people had rented it like a billion times.
Yeah, there's for an episode covering 1914, there's a lot of discussion about VHS videotapes in this episode.
Yeah, you can see how much we know about this stuff.
And then we've got George Luke. So how this will work is normally we'll do a year, an episode, everyone. But we're just going to get through the chunk, the pre-Star Wars years.
Yeah.
Because there's not much Star Wars news in 1914 to cover, Hawes.
Surprisingly. Well, yeah, and this book says it starts in 1914, and the only piece of information it has from 1914 is a tiny little blurb about Gertie the dinosaur, which was like a sort of an early animated film, which I actually saw in college because I went to school for animation.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's your why did you think of the new? We had the Star Wars Resistance animation come out. What did you think of that?
I think it looks pretty cool, man.
Yeah. I just tweeted that I like that the most out of all the Star Wars animation because that's the sort of stuff I watched. Like it reminds me of like watching like G-Force or Battle of the Planets or whatever it was called in different countries. The one with the transmute.
Right. Do
you know what I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about. To me, I get a vibe of sort of a Robotech, Voltron vibe, especially that newer Voltron.
Yes.
That's out on Netflix. And this Resistance is still CG animated, but the technique they're using, the cell shading technique, makes it look a lot more like traditional 2D animation, which I really like.
Nice. It's like going to Cracker Barrel for some home cooking.
Mm-hmm.
It's not home cooking, but
it's kind of close.
Kind of close. What's your view on the Cracker Barrel, Hawes?
Cracker Barrel is my Force Friday up early, like 5 a.m, checking stores, stop to have some breakfast restaurant.
Nice. I've only been there once, but positive vibes.
All that stuff on the wall.
We got like some fried chicken meal. It was like $10 or something.
It's so cheap.
It took us 2 days to eat it. We all took half our chicken home. We were on a road trip, and we had like chicken the next day. So there you go. This is Patreon content's brought to you by Cracker Barrel. But on May 14th, 1944, George Walton Lucas Jr. is born in Modesto, California. George and his 3 sisters spend their earliest years in the suburbs of Modesto, where his parents, George Sr. and Dorothy, own a stationery store. Now, here's my guide, you guys. When you're trying to work out some of the motivations or the influences of the first Star Wars, whenever you hear George Sr., just in brackets, just put in Uncle Owen. And, it's strange how many people don't get this, but George Lucas Skywalker.
Right, George, Luke S. Yeah.
So there's some behind the scenes info, and
I am loving this picture of him in 8th grade.
Oh my God, he's
so stoked.
Has he got a T-shirt on?
I think he's got a white T-shirt under what looks like maybe a black button-up or a dark-colored button-up.
That is so disappointing because at the angle, I've got like the light for the camera on me, so it's a little bit reflective. But I thought he was rocking some V-neck, like sort of faux athletic sweater with nothing underneath, and I was like, "Yeah, George." Made it wild. Admittedly, there's not a single hair on that chest, but it was the T-shirt, and I don't know if he's at an age. I don't know why I'm talking about George Lucas's chest hair. However, I do have to bring up that at Star Wars Celebration during that 40th anniversary panel, I could see his tummy through his shirt.
I know. You told me about that.
And I was saying to Amanda, I was like, hey, did you ever think you'd be sitting here looking at George Lucas's tummy? And she's like, no.
I'm real bummed that I missed out on that panel.
Oh, buddy. Well, this is going to be like a panel. We're going to go through all 40 years.
And now introducing John Williams.
He's hiding in Hawes's fridge.
Right, yeah. He's going to come out right over here, be like, shh. Womp, womp, womp.
In the late 1950s, the Lucas family moves just outside the city to a ranch-style house set among 13 acres of walnut trees. Here, Lucas's interests expand from comics, radio, dramas, Saturday matinee serials, and television westerns to motorcycle, cars, and rock and roll. So,
yeah, man.
So he's into rock and roll. So this is before his interest in jizz came in, I'm guessing. And of course, jizz is the Cantina band music, everyone. So just settle down. I would like this is a good idea for a Star Wars like parody. This is pretty good, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's Back to the Future set in Star Wars.
Okay. So
Just hear me out.
okay.
Don't worry about all the machinations of it or anything. It's just for this one thing, this one scene, where it's like it's all beautiful. So he's at the graduation at Anchorhead, where his parents are going to graduate from.
Right.
He's back in time, and one of the musicians has hurt their hand, so he has to step in. And then he gets like some, futuristic pipe and just busts out some sweet jizz. Dun, 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 and all the audience doesn't know what they're hearing. They've never heard jizz like this before. So they're all just standing dead still. And he's like, hey, your kids are going to love it. And in the audience is the dad of
Figrin Dan.
Yeah. Nah. Yeah. No. That's the cousin. But there's got to be like I don't know, like Walrus Man or Hammerhead's.
Oh, okay.
Hammerhead's dad's there, so like it does turn out that his kid does love it because Hammerhead's there at the cantina, seeing the jizz. But yeah, so someone has to ring up Figure and Dan and go, "Hey man, I've got that new sound." So yeah. Oh, I should also point out. With the George Lucas decoding, stationery store, that's code for Moisture Farm, everyone. So
absolutely.
Yes. What about this? 1943, first supercomputer. December 1943, Colossus 1, an electronic computer device used by British codebreakers to decipher encrypted German messages. But during World War II, begins operating. It ushers in a new era and the rise of modern computers. And you see this picture of just this... It literally looks like an electrical board from inside a PC computer.
But huge.
Yeah.
Filling up a whole room.
It's crazy. I have no idea. I don't even know how we're doing this now. It'd be easier for me to comprehend if Bill Gates came out and just said, "Oh, hey, it was witchcraft the whole time."
We got technology from aliens, guys.
No,
and that's how we did it.
I don't even want alien... that's even hard. Just say it's black magic. Do you know what I mean? And then I'm like, of course. How else could we be talking on this? Of course, I can see you on this bit of glass in front of me.
I know.
It's incredible.
Well, I was going to bring up real quickly.
Yeah, go for it.
I don't know if you... Right below the supercomputer thing, the Chesley Bonestell May 1944, Life magazine publishes paintings of views of Saturn by artist Chesley Bonestell. Readers are astounded by Bonestell's thoroughly researched photorealistic visions of other worlds. A book featuring Bonestell's art, Conquest of Space, 1949, becomes a bestseller. I don't know if you've ever seen that I have a copy of that book. It's definitely not a first edition or a first print or anything, but it's really cool.
Nice, and it is quite Ralph McQuarrie-esque in its
Yes.
sort of
It's like
realism.
it's like a book full of computer backgrounds. Now, but really cool ones.
Nice. All right, let's jump over to page 14. I love this one. Ivy Mike. This is down the bottom, Hawes. November 1st, 1952, the US detonates a fusion device codenamed Ivy Mike on Enutuak. Give me a shot at that one, Hawes.
Inatwak.
Anatwak, thank you. An atoll in the Pacific Ocean, considered the first successful test of a hydrogen bomb. Ivy Mike vaporizes the island Ulaglabe. It doesn't matter how it's pronounced. It's not there anymore. I'm not going to waste time on it. But so they blew up an island. Is that the most like redneck thing you've ever heard? Like you go to this beautiful place and you start blowing up islands.
Not just blew it up, vaporized it. Like blow up almost signifies that there's some debris.
Yeah!
It's definitely kind of some stuff that my family would be into. Oh man, you want to go set up some firecrackers and blow up an island?
That's some cracker.
Yeah, for real.
And ironically, just next to it is a poster from the Beast from 2000 Fathoms, which looks like a creature that was created by the radiation.
Right.
From what is his name? Ivy Mike. But that Beast from the 2000 Fathoms, it does look like a ye olde production painting of the Zillow Beast.
It does.
From Clone Wars.
You know, that's basically the origin of Godzilla from back in the day. He was a result of radiation and nuclear warfare and stuff.
Poor Godzilla. He just wanted to live, you know?
Right. Now, in this, it says Shane. Have you ever seen this movie, Shane?
No, I've got a brother called that, though, so I may as well.
Right on. Shane is one of those movies that I myself haven't seen, but people that are much more versed in film history point to as sort of a possible route they could take with an Obi-Wan movie. In fact, I think even Brian Young may have even said that on one of your episodes.
Interesting. I don't listen to my podcast, so I wouldn't know. I think I do. I think I never watched it because it's named after my brother, and it just like when you're younger, it's like, no, why would I want to watch that? It's weird. But I am. I don't know. I don't know if this is like a really dumb thought, but it's sort of, especially when like I talk to comic book fans and stuff, because they're making all these, you know, the Marvel and the DC films into these amazing, visually amazing presentations, and all the, you know, the concepts, and like whether it's like the Flashpoint or, you know, like Doctor Strange, and it's sort of like, it's so rad that I don't know, it's just like even in the 70s or the 60s, like people could enjoy these crazy adventures where anything, you could just like make stuff up, and it was sort of like, but it was so hard to make stuff up then because you had nothing to copy.
Right. Right. And now look, I mean, you see all this stuff as not just on Star Wars. You can read this and see so many influences on other things. And like, it's crazy how like it's sort of people just distill and pick and choose what pieces of this source material they like to then incorporate into their own thing.
Yeah, because that's like why I think Star Wars is king, is that it does, you know, you've got cowboy films, you've got the swashbuckling film, you've got World War, you know, like dogfights, you've got space, you've got romance, you've got like, and it's all and it's so interesting the way, like I find with like podcasters like Courtney and Solo that do the Nights of Rant, like they are way more like the romance thing and the relationships is like appeals to them so much
Right.
that she found it weird how I talked about Star Wars. Like she said, "Oh, this is quite. You talk about it so different." I thought this was the only way to talk about it because that was her lens on what was great.
Yeah, like Star Wars in some regards is like the best of CD from a band you like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's a band you like, you go get their best of album and it has every single song you like on it, you know what I mean? Like it takes the best part of a lot of different things and sort of mixes them together. And then it also allows people to sort of focus on exactly what they like. I like, goofy dudes in armor that don't do a whole lot and lightsabers, but there's plenty of people that doesn't appeal to, and they like something else in Star Wars.
Dude, I don't want to get competitive, but I am going to try out analogy you on this one.
Please do.
This is what Star Wars is for me.
Okay.
It's when you go to like your Cracker Barrel or your diner and you're going for breakfast, and then there's that one combo meal that's got eggs, bacon, sausages, hash brown, pancake. Like it's got like all your favorites are there. So you don't just have to get like bacon and eggs, or you don't just have to get pancake. Like you don't have to like have envy of like someone else's like little sausage that looks delicious, might be a bit spicy. That's Star Wars. It's the all-encompassing breakfast.
I do think that is better, and I think I got that exact combination at Norm's when we were visiting.
Oh, Norms. There is one. It's like
the ultimate breakfast, the big bad breakfast. I can't remember what it was called, but it's everything on the menu basically.
Yeah, and if you go like at the right time on a Tuesday, they like give you $4 to eat it.
Yeah.
It's like so incredibly cheap. It's like I'm losing money not going to eat this meal. Like this is value packed. How about this one, Hawes? It would be very remiss of us not to bring this one up. July 17th, 1955, Walt Disney's theme park, Disneyland, opens in Anaheim, California. The 160-acre site is divided into Main Street, USA, Adventureland, Fantasyland, Frontierland, and Tomorrowland. And George Lucas was there on the first day.
He was there on the first day. Apparently, they made many family trips to Disneyland once it opened. And I just recently got to experience Disneyland for the first time. I'd been to Disney World before, and I'm not going to lie, I think I'd prefer Disneyland.
Really?
It's so much smaller. It's so much easier to get around. The weather wasn't as hot as it would be in Florida at the same time of year,
And it's an hour from my house.
Well, that's a benefit for you.
I feel like you should be happy for that, just for me.
I am.
Don't be selfish.
Hey, dude.
Don't be selfish. The first Disney park I ever went to was Florida. And I remember going across the monorail. You go across water.
Mm-hmm.
And this was like a while ago, so my memory, like I think I may have animated this memory, but I remember on the monorail going over water, and there was some hotel with like a giant swan on it, and we parked inside a hotel in the monorail and then kept going. But I remember going over the water and seeing all the hotels and how amazing they looked, and just like it was like when the ship when they first fly into like Watonga. What is it on Marvel? Where the Black Panther is? How do you say that?
Wakanda.
Sorry. Respect to the Wakandan people. Oh my God! Do you know there's a Wakanda Wu-Tang collab, like clothing line?
Oh really?
Oh my God! So it's the Wu-Tang logo and it says Wakanda Forever, and it's like all official, like a collab between Wu-Tang and Marvel. It's so dope. Like,
wow.
Good use.
That's pretty cool.
Good use of the license. But back to the topic at hand, old dirty Hawes. Yeah, I was so like I couldn't, but like I was just taken aback at how visually stunning the monorail, I was just like, I'm in Fantasyland. Like, I'm in Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. It was, amazing. I can't believe that we humans together like built such a thing.
So Disney World is impressive. There's no doubt about it. I just, I think the fact that there's so much to Disney World when you compare it to Disneyland, like you've got Epcot, you've got MGM, you've got Animal Kingdom. Like, it's so hard to, like Disneyland, we were able to take in all of Disneyland in one day, see everything we wanted to see, ride everything we wanted to see. You can't do that with Disney World.
All right, so you're the type of guy out of your Disneyland, you don't want to do like the 3-month European trek. You want like the 4-day, 18-country Kentucky tour of Disneyland.
Yeah, yeah.
I love Berlin. It was the best 4 hours of the trip. How about this for something to get the goosebumps going, Hawes? They open Galaxy's Edge, Star Wars Land.
Right.
And they bring George Lucas down to check it out.
Oh, the first day? Let him just run wild by himself?
Just let him walk around when it's empty, or like they should just do like
the last coat of paint goes on, they're like, it's done.
No, this is what they should do. And I would go to the cinema to watch this. I would go to IMAX to pay, and I'd pay more than I could. Or more than I should. The day before it opens to the public, it's just because you know how all the cast and the crew, they're going to be in character.
Right.
So they're there. All the droids that are going to be going around are there. All the troopers are going around are there. And they just let George Lucas into the park.
Oh my goodness.
And he can just explore and go on all the rides, and just a camera crew follows him around.
Do you think he would... Do you think he would enjoy it? I think he would. I think it would be sort of a big deal to him. He was at Disneyland on the first day.
That's what I mean. Like, he was there on the first day, and now his imagination
has been turned into a massive part of that park. Yeah. George's public persona, like, I could see George geeking out on stuff real hard in private, but like, he seems pretty, I don't know, he seems kind of like an anxious guy in public. Maybe that's just me projecting some of myself onto him.
But the park's empty.
But if they got a film crew and stuff, like maybe hidden cameras, I would just love to see him geeking out so hard.
Wait. You're getting a bit nasty with these hidden cameras. I'm not asking for a George Lucas upskirt video.
No, I'm not looking for that either.
I've already seen his tummy. I've seen enough.
I'm just saying, like, let him, get George Lucas in the wild, not realizing he is, like, because I feel like if he's being filmed, he'd be like, oh, it was cool. It's really nice. But if you could get the real George Lucas when he's not on camera and see how he reacts, I bet you it'd be a little different.
What about this? When you're talking about George Lucas in the wild, what about this pic of G. Lucas on page 15? The vibe. Oh my God. He is he's got a debonair look, ready for anything. His hair's flowing. He's got a camera. He's killing it in this photo.
The man knows how to pose for a picture. Yeah. Or he's just got a natural way about him to where like candid pictures look really good.
No, do you know where Lucas shines in front of the camera?
Where's that?
When he's looking off into the distance.
Yes. If
he's looking at the camera, it feels like he's not enjoying it. But oh my God, his look into the distance, like wispy vibe, it is just amazing. So this little major blurb from Flash Gordon to Star Wars. As his interest in film deepens, Lucas reconsiders the Flash Gordon movie serials. He begins to wonder what would happen if they were done really well, which I love. I love, Hawes. George Lucas invented the fan term, if it's done well.
If it's, if they do a good job with it, it could be fun.
Yeah, I'd be up for a Flash Gordon reboot if it's done well. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I remember when they reboot Battlestar Galactica
Yes.
and Starbuck was a lady. I remember. What year was that? Was that like 2000s or?
Yeah, that was in the 2000s. I want to say that show came to its conclusion when I lived in Birmingham. I've lived here for about 10 years. Yeah, I think it was early 2000s or so that show came back.
Yeah, because I remember like going, oh yeah, Battlestar Galactica, I liked that when I was little, and I'm like, oh, they made her a girl. Why would you do that? And then watching it, and it's like, oh my god, if they do it right,
Dude, I remember having Twitter-style debates with my dad when I was a kid on whether Battlestar Galactica was better than Star Wars. And he did it just to get on my nerves, but he would be like, Battlestar Galactica is way better than Star Wars. There's more of it. Oh, he used to get on my nerves so bad with that.
Wow, some early trolling.
Yeah, my dad was a pre-Twitter troll.
What about, I don't want to, I just got to tinfoil hat this a little bit, Hawes.
Okay.
George Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
Time travel.
Well, have you ever read the weirder conspiracy theories that people think that Jules Verne was either a time traveler or had some sort of psychic insight because of things like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, where he talked about submarines before submarines were ever a thing.
Really?
Yeah, and like.
But do you know what backs up my little?
I'd love to hear it.
Page 15 in that photo. Look in his pocket.
That's an iPhone.
He's got an iPhone.
Oh my God, Steele. They're not going to let us do this podcast. We've just cracked the code.
Son,
I haven't cursed once. It's going to get taken down off of YouTube.
Someone comes up behind me and puts a plastic bag with the little ripcord.
And I see it, and I'm like, no, Steele, no, buddy. Trying to call people on the phone. Call Jason. Get over to Steele's.
You got anything else on this one, Hawes?
No, well, besides how much like Howdy Doody freaks me out, man. Not a fan.
Oh, okay. So, December 27th, 1947, the first regularly scheduled nationally broadcast television program, Puppet Playhouse, premieres on NBC. The program is later renamed The Howdy Doody Show, and airs. That's where George Lucas got his penchant for changing stuff later on. Like it was Star Wars, and it got changed for New Hope. Sadly, Star Wars Episode 4, The Howdy Doody Show, didn't have the same ring to it.
What I really like about this book is so, they drop Howdy Doody on you, right? He looks all weird and creepy. I hate puppets like that.
I do want to stamp that puppet's head. Like I want it to make sure it's not going to keep coming for me.
Right. But like they're not like, this is important because puppets would be used in Star Wars later. They kind of leave you to connect the dots with some of this stuff, which I think is pretty neat.
Work it out, numbnuts.
Yeah.
Record a 175-part podcast series about it. See if you can work it out. Okay. Oh, and I guess maybe just for a little bit of cultural relevance, January 27th, 1956, Elvis Presley's Heartbreak Hotel is released and becomes the year's best-selling single. We haven't seen, George Lucas takes so many, things from pop culture and history and stuff and puts it in the show.
Right.
We haven't seen an Elvis Presley style character.
That's true. Maybe he wasn't a big Elvis guy. Maybe he was more into like the Beatles or something,
Yeah, I know Mark Hamill was, that's for sure.
Oh, for sure.
Hawes, welcome to the decade of change, the 1960s. And there's a nice quote here. The 60s were amazing. I was in college and was just the right age.
Now, see, that's why I want to be a time traveler. I want to time travel and try to hang out with George Lucas in college.
Nice. And that was from a 1979 George Lucas interview. I remember in the lead up to the millennium. Even like in like 1989 or something, I'd worked out how old I was going to be at the millennium, and I was like, yeah,
Right.
that's prime, that's prime partying age. And I was like, I'm one of the luckiest people in history to be in my 20s for the millennium. Yeah, let's go.
I spent the 1999 to 2000 change sitting at home watching the MTV New Year's Eve party, where famously, quote unquote, Limp Bizkit covered Prince's 1999. Not much partying for the millennium for me. And I was 16. I should have been out getting up to some shenanigans. I was instead sitting at my PC playing EverQuest online and watching Limp Bizkit perform 1999 by Prince on TV.
Well, you had to get in your EverQuest because you wouldn't know if the computer was going to work the next day.
Exactly. Who knew?
Yeah.
You know, I went to a very religious school in the South, and there were several teachers that were like, we're probably not going to see you guys after Christmas break. I'm dead serious, dude. I'm dead serious. There was this one guy.
Let's say our goodbyes.
He was like, his name was Coach Gardner. He was also our history and Bible teacher, and he was like,
history and Bible, a good combination.
Yeah, he was like, this is probably it. So, I hope you're right with God, basically.
Wow, that's what an education.
Oh boy.
I had a very lame millennium as well, but I'll save that story for
when we get to the millennium.
Yeah. I don't want to burn. I was just like, I've got to save some of this gear.
He's bringing out every story he's got. He's blowing it all on the first episode.
Well, there's nothing worse in stand-up comedy is when the set's not going very well.
Oh, right.
So you just go straight to bat. You're like, I'll just do my closer. Like, I just got to go, like, out of desperation, you panic. And then that doesn't work. It's like, I got nothing else. Like, that's it. And I was worried that if I bust out my millennium story now, that where will I be in 40 episodes? Or no, it wouldn't be 40 episodes time. Who knows? But we're in the 1960s. The 1960s are a time of great turbulence, following a campaign which included the first televised debate between US presidential candidates in 1960. John F. Kennedy defeats Richard M. Nixon to win the election. The conflict in Vietnam becomes a war that leads to an unprecedented anti-war movement. In music, the Beatles lead the British invasion. At the movies and on television, traditional heroes give way to anti-hero. It is during this remarkable period that George Lucas becomes a filmmaker, it says. A filmmaker.
A little bit of both.
Okay, nice. Well, you see the already some political influence on Star Wars because, the Vietnam War.
Right.
Ewoks are born, baby.
Well, have you ever... Probably not. This is just one of those weird things in history that I got clued into in college. They talk about that first debate, the first televised debate between Richard Nixon and John F. Kennedy. Mm-hmm. And dude, it is so awkward because Richard Nixon is not prepared to be on TV, right? And so like when he's talking and it cuts to John F. Kennedy, he's like paying attention and stuff.
Yeah.
When John F. Kennedy is talking and it cuts to Richard Nixon, he's like all looking around and stuff. He's not prepared to be on TV. Meanwhile, John F. Kennedy is smooth. Like he is ready for TV. Like it's their first TV appearance,
Yeah, but was he not prepared to have a conversation? Like, is that what he does when he talks to someone? Just starts looking around?
I mean, I didn't know him personally, but maybe. But like, yeah, it's like
Wait, is he trying to vibe him out, or is he just like?
Well, like it's weird. Maybe I'm not explaining it best. Like when you watch like a political debate on TV now, clearly, both people are very prepared to be on TV. Like they've been trained, they've had media training and stuff. You're right. That was not the case, especially with this first one. So like Richard Nixon is not prepared, clearly not prepared to be on TV, and like it doesn't go real well for him.
Yeah, I just don't think just in normal conversations, he should have been picking his nose either. But
right.
What are you going to do? How about this one, Hawes? 1961. Yojimbo. Have you seen this film?
I have. This is where we actually get into some stuff that I have looked into because I like Japanese culture and samurai and stuff like that. So Kurosawa movies are right up my alley. I haven't seen them all. I have seen Yojimbo. I have seen The Hidden Fortress, Seven Samurai, things like that. But yeah, this is where I have a little more experience with this kind of stuff.
Nice. But this poster, I'll read out the little Yojimbo thing. April 25th, Yojimbo, directed by Akira Kurosawa and starring Toshio Mifune? Horse?
I believe it's Mifune.
Mifune.
I might be wrong.
Love Mifune. Nice. That's way better than my one. Premieres in Japan and is released 5 months later in the US. Kurosawa draws from Western films and Dashiell Hammett's books, Red Harvest and The Glass Key, to tell a story of a masterless samurai who manipulates rival gangs in a lawless town. Sounds good.
Right?
I have to say, so this poster, which if you're watching will be up on the screen, I have got a Force Awakens poster, which I didn't know referenced this, but it has to be the base for it. It's like a screen printed poster that they had at that Art Awakens thing at Gallery 1988. They had all the limited edition prints. And where Yojimbo is, it's like a big Kylo Ren. And then it's got all the Japanese kanji or the lettering down the side, and it's sort of where those samurai or the gangs are running downstairs there. That's where Rey and Finn are running from the explosion. Right. And I love, much like yourself, Japanese sort of art and culture and products and food. And food, as long as it's cooked. Although I did have, I couldn't eat the raw fish because of the taste. I just can't. The fishy fish, no buys. But I did have raw chicken.
Really?
Yeah. So
you dug that?
I just ate a bite to say I ate it.
Okay, so you wouldn't say "Oh, give me more of that."
No, I just did it for this podcast, essentially.
Okay, cool.
It was a content write-off. I did it for the content, but I dipped it in soy sauce or something. But it just looked like a chicken breast that you'd buy at the supermarket. That's what it looked like. Quite strange. But
I was not aware that was a thing.
Yeah, so they were shocked. I showed them the invention of fire and how much better it tasted when you combined the two things.
So have you checked out have you watched any of these older samurai films?
You know what? I haven't for years.
Yeah, it's been a long time for me too. I know they put a bunch of them up on Hulu at one point a couple years back, and I tried to watch them. It was kind of difficult. I was watching while I was working and stuff, so it didn't work out all that well. But something I found interesting, this whole connected universe.
Whoa. Is that why all the internet addresses in the world are www. Because it's most people, when they use the internet, they're watching while working.
Maybe. Watching while working.hulu.com.
Yeah.
The thing, we talk about all these big connected universes, Star Wars, Marvel, DC and stuff. There's a series of samurai films that I actually just learned about within the last couple of months or so. I saw Mark from Podcast 2187 talking about it on Twitter.
Yeah,
And it's
I was so shocked you didn't know about the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, but
oh, Ed, that's right up my alley. You want to do a Power Rangers podcast? I'll turn this off right now. We'll start it up. But it's based off of Zatoichi, the Blind Swordsman, which was obviously like a pretty direct influence on Chirrut from Rogue One.
mm-hmm.
And I knew there were some films featuring that character. What I didn't know is that Criterion put out a box set, and it features all the films, which there are 25 of,
Ooh,
with the same actor playing the same character.
wow.
Like a very long-running samurai series I wasn't aware of.
What about this 1962 Doctor Doom? Created by writer Stan Lee and artist Jack Kirby, supervillain Doctor Doom made his debut in Marvel Comics The Fantastic Four #5, cover date July. Victor Von Doom, VVD, is fascinated by the occult and dons a mask after his face is badly disfigured when he tries to contact the netherworld. I don't know much about Doctor Doom, as I'm not a comic book person, but I know he's highly regarded. I think like Ben Mendelsohn, Mendo himself, is that's like one of the characters he most wants to play.
Oh, he would be excellent as Doctor Doom. That's a really good idea. You know, and that series is probably due for a reboot in the next couple of years because Marvel's going to own the rights to it again after the Fox sale goes through.
Yeah, I actually, on your other podcast, Rogue One, I think Johnny said he made a prediction for a TV show, which I thought was, I kind of agreed with, just that they've never gotten the film to work.
Right. Well, you know, that's definitely an issue with that particular film series. And, you know, the guy who almost worked for Star Wars is the one that did the really bad Fantastic Four movie that most recently came out. A TV show probably would work, but I would hope that they would do a little better at connecting it with the films, unlike they do with the Netflix series right now.
Do you know much about Doctor Doom? What's his caper? What's his motivation?
So Doctor Doom and Mr. Fantastic, you know, the stretchy guy, were friends in college. And he has this accident. And before this book, I'm not going to lie, I never really connected Doctor Doom to Darth Vader, but there's clearly a connection to be made. And yet, like, you know, he's all messed up under his mask. He wears the cape and the mask. Like, he's a bad guy. He's obsessed with the occult, aka the dark side of the Force. I could see a lot of connections.
Yeah, my note next to his head was Vader.
Yeah.
Yeah. The what else have we got here? This is a big thing in the life of George Lucas, and this one is titled "Shifting Gears." June 12th, 1962. 3 days before his high school graduation, Lucas is in his Fiat Bianchina. How do you say that one, Hawes?
Bianchina.
Oh, wow. Nice. Bianchina! Hey, the Lucas, why are you driving so fast?
Bianchina.
Heading home from the city library, which it sounds like bullshit to me. It sounds like a cover story. Yeah, I was at the library. Sure you were, dude. Whatever. But he was reportedly, heading home from the city library when his classmate Frank Fiera tries to pass him at high speed in a Chevy Impala. I never saw him, Lucas recalls. He hit me broadside just as I was turning into our drive. Lucas just throwing Frank Fiera under the bus on that one. Lucas is rushed to Modesto City Hospital and spends the next 2 weeks in intensive care. The experience transforms many of his ideas about life and ends his ambition to race cars. After recovering, he enrolls in Modesto Junior College to study psychology, anthropology, and philosophy.
Dude, and you see that picture of the wreck that they have? It's tiny inset, like right above Lucas with his car. That's a gnarly wreck.
Was it that he'd built like some sort of seatbelt in his car?
He put a roll cage in. They talk about that a little earlier in the book with his racing and stuff.
Uh-huh. But wasn't it that like his seatbelt broke and that's why he didn't die? Because he sort of got thrown. He actually rode the blast.
Oh, maybe it is. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, it says like he goes on to modify his yellow Fiat Piacina by adding a roll bar and a heavy-duty racer's seat belt. He later becomes head of the pit crew for driver Alan Grant at the Pacific Grand Prix.
Pod racing, man. Pod racing. He was
Right.
George Lucas was one of those droids that you just tap on the top of his head.
Yeah, the pit droids.
Yeah. That photo of him with the car, could he not find his haircut and he borrowed one off a Lego figure?
You know what's bad is I got that exact haircut not by choice the day the Force Awakens came out, and I haven't gotten my haircut since because I got such a bad haircut. I was like, oh, that's it, man. I'll send you a picture of me like with my family before we're going to see the Force Awakens, and I look like Jim Carrey in Dumb and Dumber.
Oh my god.
The worst haircut I've ever had.
It looks like to get that haircut, like in the Jetsons or something, you just go on a conveyor belt and a thing comes down.
Yeah.
And it just like, nah, and comes up, and then you've got the Lucas hair.
Did they have the Floby in 1962? It looks like a Floby haircut for sure.
Oh, it's something. GL. What about this one, Hawes? October 5th, James Bond, Dr. No, an adaptation of Ian Fleming's spy novel, premieres in London. It is directed by Terence Young and stars Sean Connery as a British secret agent with a license to kill. A year before the release of Dr. No, Fleming's novel From Russia with Love became a bestseller and in the US. Afterlife magazine listed it among President Kennedy's 10 favorite books. And you know, James Bond, a bit of a trailblazer for Indiana Jones.
For sure. Never been much of a James Bond guy, though, I got to be honest.
Yeah, me neither. I wanted more out of it.
Yeah.
I had this little Matchbox submarine James Bond car. He had like this white Lamborghini or something that would go underwater. Little wings would pop out. And I don't know what movie that's from, but I just thought it was like he just drove it all the time, like the Batmobile. Do you know what I mean?
No.
So I'm
right.
watching these movies, and I'm like, and he'd get near water, and I'd be like,
in a minute now.
all right, get in the boat. But no. 1964, Hawes. Lucas's father buys his son a 35mm camera to encourage his interest in photography. Lucas enrolls at the University of Southern California School of Cinema Television. While attending car races as a photographer, he becomes friends with cinematographer Haskell Wexler. Friends and fellow students at USC will include Hal Barwood, Robert DeValier, Caleb Deschanel, Bob Gale, Howard Kazanjan. How do you say Howard's surname?
Howard Kazagian?
Wow. I am, I stand by my track record of never being able to pronounce anyone's surname. So,
I don't know that I'm doing any better, buddy.
Who else was there? Robert Zemeckis was also in the house. So he's off to Southern California.
To do a little film school.
Nice. You got anything else on that page, Hawes?
You got Alec Guinness and Lawrence of Arabia. Something I've seen once, didn't really, not really my bag, but I did definitely checked it out. Like, yeah, it's cool as it progresses. You start seeing when the big players in Star Wars start to sort of make a name for themselves in film and TV.
He's looking a bit Tatooine-y there with his his little hood deal.
Does it ever bum you out how much Alec Guinness didn't like Star Wars?
Don't care.
Really? Fair enough.
Yeah, as good actor. Thanks for pretending.
Yeah, fair enough.
I kind of like it when anyone's honest about Star Wars.
Yeah, I get it. I think, I didn't find out about the Alec Guinness not really enjoying Star Wars thing until I got the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I got the internet, it just opened up all this Star Wars research, and I started reading quotes from his like autobiographies and stuff.
The internet is an amazing tool for finding out who doesn't like Star Wars, though.
It sure is. It's real easy. It's really easy to find out.
What a yeah.
And there was this quote from him being approached by a kid on the street with his mother, and the kid wanted his autograph and said, I saw Star Wars 12 times in theaters, and Alec Guinness got on to his mom for being a bad mother and letting him see it that many times.
See that? You're tiptoeing into dickishness on that one.
A little bit, right?
Yeah, that sort of stuff. It's like, lighten up, bro. Chill out. You got your points.
Right.
So in 1965, we've got the Vietnam War escalates. February 7th, the U.S. Air Force executes Operation Flaming Dart, which sends 49 F-105 Thunder Chiefs to attack targets located in North Vietnam. And obviously, the photo here of it does seem like a little flank of X-wings cruising off to their mission.
It sure does. You could almost sort of see that being also one of those starting shots from Revenge of the Sith. When it sort of starts above the big battle of Coruscant and then zooms down on it, like you go closer and closer. What
an opening.
Yeah, what an opening with the drums and stuff.
Oh my God. I don't have a good... I'm pretty good at remembering feelings from when I see the films for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't remember what I thought about that. It must have been good. It was so good.
So good.
What do you think that up against the opening of The Last Jedi?
Honestly, probably Revenge of the Sith.
Really?
Not to take anything from... I like the quick zoom in of Last Jedi, but it's so much bigger. There's so much more going on in Revenge of the Sith. It's different circumstances. It's not a giant...
I mean more so the opening battle.
Oh, no. The opening battle of The Last Jedi. With Poe doing his Fast and the Furious stuff and the X-Wing and the fighters coming in and they start playing the Resistance theme and then all that. Oh, yeah. As far as quality of battle, Last Jedi.
When he does the skid, it just reminds me of Crew Jones in Helltrack or Rad, depending what country you're from. But it's just it's almost like you've got a duck from the dirt that's getting kicked up your way.
Right.
It's such a good Ceci. Amazing. It would be remiss of us not to acknowledge that in 1966, September 8th, Star Trek premieres on NBC TV. Created by Gene Roddenberry, the science fiction series depicts the adventures of a multi-ethnic, mixed-gender crew of the USS Enterprise in the 23rd century. A young Richard Edlund, later employed by ILM, works for one of the outside special effects houses used on Star Trek. Despite the promise of a 5-year mission, Star Trek is cancelled at the end of its 3rd season. But later becomes an immensely popular franchise. And we've got this photo of Spock and Kirk. Kirk's going to shoot something, and Spock's pointing exactly where to shoot.
Hey, shoot that.
I'm kind of worried that Kirk is actually going to shoot Spock's finger. You need to stand back, buddy. But yeah, I actually just watched the Star Trek version of The Toys That Made Us on Netflix.
Pretty good, right?
Yeah, and it sort of went into a lot of like just actual Star Trek history, and I was very interested to hear that Gene Roddenberry had like extensively traveled the world and spent
Hmm.
time in all these cultures. I think he was in the Air Force or the Army or something like that he got around. Um, but yeah, and that sort of like worldview, like obviously fed into this, where you've got such a diverse cast in 1966, and I remember watching it, and it's amazing what you'll accept when you're a little kid, when you're not told what
Not
you,
to accept it.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I used to watch Star Trek, and yeah, the thought that there was like an African American lady there and like Sulu, like it just didn't cross my mind. It was just like, yeah, that's the crew of Star Trek. They're trekking in the stars.
I remember renting a lot of the original series of Star Trek on VHS when I was a kid
More VHS
because
talk.
uh, we should just call this Star Wars VHS talk by year by podcast.
I don't want to get too hard in the sizzle. I don't want to get all Hawes Burkhardt on everyone, but I've got some ripping VHS stories coming once we get to
Good.
the 90s. Once we get to
Nice.
the 90s. And if I could find those tapes and just put up my edits on YouTube, that'd be pretty good as well. But I've got about 8 years to do that until we get to
Right, right.
90s. What do you got on these pages, Hawes?
Um, all right? Here's a question for you: Are you a big Western guy at all? Like it mentions, the Italian westerns in the '60s with, for a few dollars more, Sergio Leone, Clint Eastwood, etc., etc. Have you ever been into the Western thing?
Nah, my dad was.
So was mine, and I could just never get into them, man. And like, I understand their influence on Star Wars, but never been a Western guy. Like, if I'm gonna get into something Western, it's gotta like there better be some robot cowboys
Yeah, dude. I want the horse they're riding to be a robot for sure.
for sure.
That's my whole thing with television. I I, I can't watch these like I guess in America like the latest one is like This Is Us, where it's just like here's a family that's miserable.
Oh, buddy, thank you so much. You know what I call those? White bummer shows, because it's a bunch of bummed out white people. Like, and like Jesse loves those kind of shows. Like Shameless. Are you familiar with that show? Like it's just people being bummed out, bad stuff happening to bad people. And This Is Us. Like Johnny was crazy about that show, so I was like, I don't know, maybe I'll give it a shot. I watched the first episode by myself while Jesse was at work. Was a crying mess, and I was like, never again. Like, why do I want to do this to myself? No, thank you.
I have no idea why you're doing it to yourself. Yeah, if I want to if you're going to be bummed on TV,
Mhm.
like you better be in space or in the future or
Mysterious Island.
yeah, or filthy rich.
Right, right.
Um, yeah, otherwise no buys miserable people. I know I can find miserable normal people here for free
Hmm.
without advertising interruptions. Um, what else do we have here? I love this factoid, or what the little story behind it. December 15th in 1966, very sad. Walt Disney dies of lung cancer at the age of 65. He never gets to see his planned second theme park, Walt Disney World, open in Florida. Um, I think his brother made sure that got finished for him. But I love the story of how Walt Disney was getting frustrated with how all the land prices around Disneyland were going up. Like, so everyone was opening businesses around the park.
Oh, okay.
So, like, this land that used to be really cheap, he can't buy any more of it now because he's made it too expensive. Do you know what I mean?
Right, right.
And so he set up all these shell companies and bought all this swampland in Florida for like, next to nothing. but he had to keep secret it was for a Disney theme park. Otherwise, people would rort him.
Yeah, and he got a lot of land in Florida.
Oh my God, it's overwhelming how much land he's got in Florida. Like you're on freeways. I remember being on a freeway and there was a mouse logo on the freeway sign.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
just like,
for sure.
What's happening here? How intertwined is Walt Disney into? But they have a town. Isn't there like a Disney town in Florida where people live?
Yeah, okay. So I watched this thing on YouTube about the town that Disney created in Orlando. It was basically a little subdivision and stuff, and they built it to be kind of like idyllic 1950s style.
Yes.
And yeah, it's
kind of
interesting. It's kind of creepy because a lot of the houses are abandoned and in serious disrepair now.
Really?
Because, yeah, and they weren't necessarily built well. You know what I mean? They were built more to look a certain way than to be a well-built house. So a lot of them have like structural issues and stuff. It was really interesting. I'll see if I can't dig up a link to that. But yeah, they've done some interesting quote unquote stuff in Florida with the Disney.
I don't know, a sort of sad thing is that George Lucas never got to meet Walt Disney.
Right? I wonder how they would have gotten along.
Yeah, like it'd just be to have a chat.
I wonder what Walt Disney would have thought of Star Wars.
Oh. I think he might have been a Raylo.
He might have.
What about this one? Student films. Lucas's futuristic breakout student film, Electronic Labyrinth, THX 1138 4EB, is released, depicting a bleak, monotonous future where emotions are outlawed. Lucas has shown promise with several of his earlier films, including 543, a satire about making of a teen beach movie done in collaboration with fellow USC student Randall Kaiser and Christopher Lewis, and Look at Life, a fast-paced montage of images from Life magazine, which won Lucas a number of awards at various film festivals. It's poetry, it all rhymes. USC Awards, Lucas the Samuel Warner Memorial Scholarship for the short Electronic Labyrinth, THX 1138 4EB, allowing him to access Warner Brothers Studios. There he meets Francis Ford Coppola, who is in the process of directing Finian's Rainbow. THX 1138 4EB. Catchy.
Have you ever watched it? The student film version of that?
I have not. How does it go?
I watched it last week in preparation for this. I actually tried to track down 543 and couldn't find it, but I did watch.
That to me is the most interesting one.
Right?
Satire,
that's the one.
It sounds.
I wanted to see that.
It sounds like such a modern concept.
And then,
like a mockumentary.
Look at Life. I did find the one that's the fast-paced montage of images from Life magazine.
I feel like I've seen that, or it's been on a documentary in part.
It was like a Tumblr post. You know what I'm saying? Like it definitely, or like even a YouTube video. And like, obviously at the time it was much harder to put something together like that than it would be for me to do, that on YouTube. But,
so is you saying the video you're watching on YouTube was like a YouTube video?
Yes, it was.
Wow. It is all connected.
There's a ring theory of my research. But yeah, I was really bummed I couldn't find 543 because it sounds, it sounds very modern or like more contemporary, and I just couldn't find it anywhere. I did watch the original student film version of 1130 or THX 1138, and got to say I zoned out a little bit.
When they were retitling it, you know how they made it THX 1138? Why didn't you go with Electronic Labyrinth?
Right?
Like, it just seems like a more catchy title. But what do I know?
Maybe it was already taken.
Lucas meets Spielberg, February 1967. Aspiring filmmaker Steven Spielberg sees Electronic Labyrinth THX 1138 4EB. I hope that's the last time I have to say that. At the USC Student Film Festival at the Fairfax Theatre in Los Angeles. Oh my God, I know exactly where that is. Spielberg is so impressed by the film that he takes the opportunity to introduce himself to Lucas. Spielberg recalls, there was so much virtuosity in the craft. The vision, the emotion of that story, I couldn't believe it was a student film.
Anakin Skywalker, meet Obi-Wan Kenobi. Nice to meet you.
Bravo. Bravo. You've been sitting on that one for a week?
I have.
Oh, man. Excellent. Also of note here, in meeting, doing a bit of backstory, a bit of George Lucas prequels. This might be the Greedo reference of all the thing. 1968 prize winner, January 1968. Lucas submits Electronic Labyrinth THX 1138E4EB. I had to say it again. God, to the 1967-1968 National Student Film Festival. One of the festival's judges is director Irvin Kershner, who is, I quote, greatly impressed by THX. Lucas wins the drama prize. So all the pieces are coming in. They'll get
right, isn't it? I mean, not to make the it's all connected joke again, but like it's funny how so much of this is connected. You know, when you sit down and look at the history leading into Star Wars, like how the pieces sort of all fall in line.
It's like this is the George Lucas's like solo prequel, and he's like, I'm putting together a crew. Also in 1968, Things to Come, April. Released within 3 days of each other. Wow. Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey and Franklin J. Schaffner's Planet of the Apes are two very different science fiction films that show the dangers of placing too much faith in technology. Kubrick's film, inspired by the Arthur C. Clarke short story, The Sentinel, spans the dawn of mankind to the next evolution and features special effects by Douglas Trumbull and the makeup of Ape Men by Stuart Freeborn. Schaffner's film shows a world where apes are superior to humans. Hawes, when is the Planet of the Apes reboot titled Planet of the Cats coming?
Oh, I would go see that. Are you kidding me?
Dude, a world in where cats are superior to humans is actually the world we live in now, by the way. But
I agree.
I need it.
You've
in a more
probably
fantastic
seen
setting.
some of mine milling about over in this general area.
Oh, really? That's some good sizzle.
Actually, Walter's taking a nap right there.
Ah, dude. There's some cat people listening to the audio version of this, just going, "Damn it!"
I'm gonna subscribe on YouTube.
I need to go get that timestamp.
Something I find interesting about Planet of the Apes is, have you ever looked into the merchandising for that movie series? They were probably the closest to a Star Wars style merchandising that we got and that came out until this point. Like the company Mego, who also did Star Trek, they did like Batman and things like that. They were, I think, 6 or 7 inch dolls that had like cloth clothing on them and stuff.
Yeah,
they put out
like an 8-inch, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, maybe an 8-inch. I don't know the exact scale. They were before my time, and I've never really had one. But I know they were big for a while. It was before,
and they had sort of like little Barbie outfits, like G.I. Joe or whatever. Yeah.
Yes, and they did superheroes, but they did a huge Planet of the Apes line as well.
The guy that owned Mego on those Toys That Make Us shows,
wild, right?
That dude lived.
He did. He did.
He's like,
And Mego's actually sort of making a comeback. There's Mego in stores now. I don't think it's, the same company. Someone bought the name Mego and
everything's making a comeback, Hawes. It's all coming back. I remember I haven't seen much of it since, but I remember at one of the maybe not Comic-Con this year, but the year before, Underoos were in the Lucasfilm booth, but it seemed like maybe that didn't work out. As I've never seen them again. How about this one? A pretty important blurb. September 1968. While Francis Ford Coppola directs The Rain People for Warner Brothers, Lucas makes a documentary about it titled Filmmaker. I love that. It's not even with a capital F.
No. George Lucas was hipster before hipster. I'm starting to get a picture of a younger George Lucas where he's like, you know what I'm saying? He's like, filmmaker.
Talkies. I'm over
Look
it.
at life.
The Rain People stars Shirley Knight, James Caan, and Robert Duvall. Although Lucas, who also works on the film as a production assistant, enjoys making documentaries, Coppola encourages him to develop his own short stories for movies. What do you got on this one, Hawes?
Chariot of the Gods. Swiss writer Eric von Däniken publishes Chariots of the Gods, which popularizes his hypothesis that numerous ancient structures are evidence of alien visitations. 2 years later, von Däniken scripts a same-titled documentary film that is nominated for an Academy Award. It's basically going back to that aliens thing that we were talking about earlier.
I've seen, there's some ripping 90s, documentaries about Chariots of the Gods with, hosts that... There was one guy that he was in this room with all this old stuff, and it was like the government was after him, so he had to keep walking. He wouldn't stay in shot. It was very mysterious. So
and the modern version is that show Ancient Aliens. That's what that's all based off of, is Chariots of the Gods.
All right, let's flip the page and head into 1969.
The year of Woodstock. Also, apparently, an important event in May of 1969, the starting of Zoetrope. Francis Ford Coppola founds his own film production company, American Zoetrope, with Lucas as executive vice president.
Yeah, and it says their goal is to recreate the atmosphere and creativity enjoyed at college. And they're going to do this up in San Francisco. Sounds like Lucas, once again, never one to throw out a good idea.
Yep. He's ready to remake THX 1138. Warner Bros. Agrees. Warner Brothers. I called them bros, like Super Mario Bros.
Hey, man, he's my Warner bro.
Agrees to loan Zoetrope $300,000 to establish its premises, buy equipment, and fund scripts. Lucas hires Walter Murch to run Zoetrope's nascent mixing studio.
Nice. And just before that, we had President Nixon. He's sworn in as president.
Indeed.
One small step. Hard to go past. July 20th, 1969, while U.S. astronaut Michael Collins orbits the moon in the command module Columbia. You don't hear his name brought up first often in describing this event. The lunar module Eagle carries Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin down to the moon's Sea of Tranquility. On Earth, more than 500 million television viewers watch Armstrong climb down the module's ladder and onto the lunar surface. That must have been crazy.
I can't even imagine.
Imagine having to stay off Twitter until you got home to watch it because you're at work.
Don't spoil the moon landing for me, guys.
Bro, don't.
And then, like, the moon landing happens, and 2 hours later, you have someone complaining about it. Like, for the first 2 hours, people were like, "That was really cool."
Not my
And then
moon landing.
yeah, 2 hours later, they're like, "Moon landing ruined my childhood."
More like Buzzkill Aldrin. This is very interesting. A good tie in between the moon landing and Star Wars. Apollo Animated. CBS News presents animated sequences to show viewers how Apollo mission astronauts will travel to and from the moon. The animations are by Ralph McQuarrie, a former artist for the Boeing Company in Seattle and presently one of the 3 artists who make up the studio named Real 3. Ralph McQuarrie in the house, and
Yep.
the fact that he was painting these realistic things of things that actually did work and were up in space doing stuff, that was a huge part of his artwork for Star Wars, because he always tried to make it so, like, he tried to make it so it was feasible that something would be floating or that would be there.
Have you seen these animations?
No.
I tried to find them. I remember watching what I think was these in school, and I tried to find them on YouTube, and all I could find were people that repurposed them to make Pink Floyd music videos.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they like used the animation but put Pink Floyd behind it and stuff.
Nice. And as we close out the 1960s, George Lucas begins filming THX 1138, September 22, budgeted at $777,000, 770. It's all sevens, you guys. That is $777,777. Oh my god! I'm glad this is one of the last stories. They shorten the name of the movie just to THX 1138, but then they make the budget unpronounceable. Am I just an idiot, or is that really easy to pronounce?
$777,777.
Yeah.
Is that it?
You get lost in it.
Yeah, you do. It's just you just 777.
On location in San Francisco's new BART, Bay Area Rapid Transport System, and continues through November 21st. How about that for some unintended, it's all connected, filming it in a train station, much like Rogue One got filmed in a British train station. So there's a train station in Melbourne, Parliament Station, and it's in the tunnel system. We've got this like city loop that goes around, and the tunnel where the train comes through, and like I remember being little and just thinking that was like a gateway to Star Wars. It just looks so
really?
Like, because the tunnel had all pipes, and do you know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
And it was round, unlike the subway in like New York. It seems like it's all square cut. This was a tube.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
So it sort of reminded me a bit of a bigger version of like the tube that Luke Skywalker was in Empire Strikes Back, like when he's getting sucked about Cloud City and stuff. Yeah, so train stations, guys. One more thing that I've got here is November 10, 1969, Sesame Street premieres on National Education Television. The educational children's series features The Muppets, puppet characters created and performed by Jim Henson and Frank Oz. The Muppets are already well known to audiences, having appeared in television shows and commercials. Those Muppets, building up some sizzle, some heat. They were the Kardashians of their time. Coincidentally enough, also had hands up their asses. The following year, Time magazine proclaims it is not only one of the best children's shows in TV history, it is one of the best parents shows. So, I think it's the 60s, Hawes.
I think that's it, buddy.
So this is what we're going to do. So, what we need from you guys, the patrons, We'll put this up, and we would love your feedback on the show. Is that correct, Hawes Burkhardt?
Yes, sir.
So we just want your, like, an audio clip. Maybe we'll work out some parameters later on if their clips are too long or whatever like that. We'll worry about that later. This is a work in progress. We'll massage the system. But it would be great if even if you maybe either drop a comment on either of our patrons where this one is posted, and we'll go through that, or email in a voicemail. Hawes, do you have a voicemail that people can email that sort of stuff to?
Yeah, they can send it to blueharvestpodcast@gmail.com.
Sweet. So if everyone sends it there, and then we can go through them together.
Yeah, and in case anybody doesn't know, it's super easy to do. Just record yourself on like your voice memo app, and it'll save that file, and you can attach it to an email.
Sweet. And then in 2 weeks' time we'll go through the voicemails, and you might have other memories or things that we got wrong. Obviously, listen, I don't need some smart ass correcting me on every surname I mispronounced in this episode. All right, let's just move on, because there's other names that we can mess up in future years. So look forward to that. Let's not dwell on the past, you guys. Also, if once we've got the second episode up where we get into the 70s, we will put this episode up for non-patrons to enjoy. But if you are a non-patron and you are gagging to find out what happens in the 70s, you can become a patron to either myself or Hawes' podcast, Blue Harvest. And at the $3 a month tier, then you have access to episode 2, which will be up now for you in the future.
Indeed.
I can't wait. It's a great episode. I got George Lucas rang me, and he said he listened to it already, and he said it's great. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, he rang me from the past to tell me about the future. It was
with that iPhone in his pocket.
It was very, very confusing. Hawes, this was so much fun, and I can't wait to crack into the next episodes, man.
Me neither, buddy. I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad it went much more smoothly this time.
It went so smoothly. I'm almost concerned about how smooth it went. And we really appreciate all the people that chip in to keep our podcast going. And if that's in your interest, we'd love to have you join us. I don't know if maybe. Do you think anyone's going to do like a jump every month? They just do $3 to you, then $3 to me, $3 to you. It's like,
no, buddy.
It's like, do you ever have anyone on Twitter that does that? They like unsubscribe to your Twitter, and then it's sort of like they're trying to get your attention or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. They're like, I'll be like, so and so followed you. I could have sworn that person followed me before, and we've interacted. And then like a month later, so and so followed you again. Yeah. So it's a little annoying.
Yeah, but when they're giving you $3 each time, it's fine.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. And we've each on each of our feeds, we've got a diverse selection of other bonus content. So you guys have got your the fantasy game, the role playing game show.
Mm-hmm.
There's the solo with Hawes, which I enjoyed.
Thanks, buddy.
And then there's going to be like a cooking with Will, and I also enjoyed the prequels. Your friend that hadn't seen the prequels.
Steve versus the prequels. Yes. We recorded our Phantom Menace episode last Saturday.
Nice. I enjoyed his solo thoughts, but I was keen to see how he was going to take the prequels. And then over on the Steele Wars side, there's the Making Steele Wars show with Jason Ward. There's the Robbo Report. There's the Juklin Strikes Back, and then we've got this and the Q&A shows and all that good stuff. So we really appreciate it, and thank you, Hawes, and
of course,
may that force be with you, buddy.
You too, buddy. See ya.